Okay, welcome everybody. How's everybody doing today? All right, my name is Andrew Farago. I'm the curator of the Cartoon Art Museum right here in San Francisco. And I've written a number of books on animation, including Totally Awesome, which is my favorite 1980s cartoons. And that's actually when I first got to interview you over email. We talked a little bit about Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, I think, and some other great cartoons. But I shouldn't explain your career, but let's all welcome to the stage amazing director, producer, storyboard artist, everything else, Larry Houston.
Hi. Well, thank you. I told people I've been very blessed that I get to work on almost all the 80s and 90s adventure shows way back when. My career started at a company called Filmation, and I was there for about a year working on, Lone Ranger, Flash Gordon, and Tarzan. And the next year I moved over to Marvel Productions, working with Stan Lee on a syndicated Spider-Man, and then we worked on Spider-Man's Amazing Friends. And we got the contract from Hasbro, and we made toys of everything they made. Robotics, Clone Friends, My Little Pony, Bigfoot and Muscle. I mean, we had so much work in the 90s. I mean, if you could hold a pencil, you would have gotten hired, because we worked there for almost 10 years working on all those toy properties. And in the middle of that, my boss was standing at a lady named Margaret Lash, and she found the funds. We tried to do a pilot called Pryde of the X-Men, you guys might know that. And we tried to get it sold back then. We did what we thought was our best work. We got a real good animation company, Toy Animation, to do the work for us. But when it came back and it looked great, it just seems like the zeitgeist was wrong. It's like the world wasn't ready for X-Men at that time. And it took about 6 years later, Margaret Lash went and became the head of Fox Kids. And when she became that person, she could greenlight a show. And that's when she called me up saying, Larry, we're doing the X-Men. And she brought me in and the story editors and some of my other friends. And we got it off. We at least got season 1 off the ground and made it into the show that we were proud of. And but except for Margaret Lash, none of the executives thought the show was a bright idea. All of them thought this is wrong. X-Men's not going to sell us in a crash and burn. And I have to always thank you guys who watched the original run, because you guys kept it #1 for the whole year. And they were forced to give me a season 2. So I always have to thank you guys for that. And X-Men's been something I'm a fanboy, nerd and stuff. And so I knew the X-Men backwards and forwards because I had been reading it since high school. And so when I got a chance to do the X-Men, it was like perfect. I knew exactly what to do.
I'm curious, can you tell me how this lineup came about? So it's kind of, you've got original X-Men, you've got new X-Men, you've got some newer characters. So it's like it's such a great mix.
Yeah.
This lineup.
What happened was we negotiated with Marvel East back in New York, and Marvel had these new characters they wanted us to put into the show called Gambit, Jubilee, and Rogue. So it's like, okay, so what we had to jettison, we had to get rid of Nightcrawler, we had to get rid of Colossus, and their Shadowcat. So we had to get rid of those, put those in, and pretty much, like Gambit was like a blank slate. So we could work with the character and make him into something fun. And so it was mainly a negotiation. And also, the writers were telling me, look, we only have 22 minutes to do a half-hour show. If, the X-Men's like this big, there's all those X-Men's out there. So we had to cull it down to something that, if you saw the episode, you could at least get some character moments. So you got a chance to know who Rogue is, who Jean Grey is, Wolverine. You got a chance to give them some screen time so that you could understand the characters. You get too many, it's like it's just like a, you know, it's a video game. You can't, you don't know what's going on. So it was a negotiation, and also the other considerations, like we tried to get characters that their powers didn't duplicate themselves. And so, you know, you got every character is a little bit different, you know, like Rogue and Colossus is actually super strong, basically the same, so Rogue could take that route. You know, Gambit's got something unique with the kinetic throwing of cards, it was different. And we decided to pair Gambit with Rogue, being he's a bad boy, and she's a girl that's a very sexy girl that can't be touched. So we said, well, let's put them together, let's see what happens.
The fans love that.
Yeah. You know, and Jubilee and Wolverine, he's like her big brother and stuff like that and everything. So we paired things off and had some fun with it. And just so you know, the writers who came up, the two writers, Eric Lewald and Julia Lewald, when they were brought onto the show, knew zero. They didn't know what's an X-Men, what's a mutant. They had no idea. So they knew nothing, I knew too much. So between the two of them, we hit a balance, right? Because they could write stories that could not only, you know, that you would enjoy, but also the whole population could enjoy. And I would take their scripts and made sure, I would change things and made sure that it felt like a Marvel comic book. So they could write something that I would course correct and make it like a Marvel comic book all the time. So it was a good balance between the two, and we were all on the same page, so it was fun to work with them too.
Yeah, as big as the comic books were to comic book readers, this really took them to the next level. Saturday morning, KB Toys, Toys R Us, arcades, like everybody knew these guys.
Oh God, if I could have had just 0.5% of that merchandising, all I got was the paycheck at the end of the week. But yeah, someone made tons of money on our show, you know, merchandising and stuff. Let's see if this thing, if I do that, what happens? I drew this, but they only give me a weekend to draw this, and I had to draw this over a weekend. You got to remember, in 1992, a lot of people didn't know who the X-Men were, so I figured, look, we got to ID the characters. So every time you saw like Cyclops, there's a logo. You see Storm, there's a logo. You know, so you see the characters right up front, you see the names, and then after you introduce a character, you see that they're being chased by humanity, either like being helicopters after the Beast, Jubilee being running away from mutants, not mutants, but humans that want to hurt her. Rogue being hunted by Sentinel robots, and so you set up what the jeopardy is, and then they all unite as a family to protect themselves against, you know, people coming after them. So that's what the genesis of that title was to introduce the characters to the world, show the jeopardy, the situations that they're going to be running into, and just, you know, here's the good mutants and the bad mutants, Magneto versus Xavier, and then both, and the humanities in the middle going, I'm trying to get out of here. And then boom, you know, so that's where the logic of that came from. And I only had a weekend. It's like, back then I had no budget, no money, and it said, we need opening titles by Tuesday. That's like Friday. I'm going, so actually I drew about 3 minutes of images, and then we cut it down to a minute to 4. So there's a lot more, but I just let the movie run in my head, and it started drawing like crazy to get it all done. And then we went back and cut, paste, to make the version you saw there. Now the same guy who wrote the music of that that you guys recognize. That was like version number 8, because the first 6 was like, wasn't any good. Now, he also wrote, his name was Ron Wasserman. He also wrote this theme. Same composer.
10,000 years on free. It's time to conquer Earth.
Alpha, we understand. A prototype of teenagers with attitudes.
That's the composer's voice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. My son goes for I'm working on X-Men, and I go in the office and say, "Come go see it."
Yeah.
Okay, and this is the guy who wrote both themes. His name is Ron Wasserman. And when he did the Morphin Power Rangers theme song, he did what we would call a scratch track. He put together just something real quick. He did the voice, say, okay, let me know what you want to change. So he sent out the track, his very first version, waiting for them to give comments, and they said, nope, we got it. So he got all that in a scratch track. Whereas mine, we took about 8 times.
Yeah.
But that's what we
Do you recall anything about the ones that didn't quite?
yeah, they were pretty much, they weren't, like we wanted something that's moving, driving and stuff, and they were doing something more moody and mysterious, and we're like, no, we don't want that. We want something moving. And maybe version 6, there was something like, there was a hint of the theme song. So it said, take that part and blow it up and make something of it. And then a couple of versions later, that's when it got the version you guys know. That's what happened there.
Yeah, you hear 3 notes of that, and
Yeah.
you have to go through the whole thing in your head.
Yeah. Here's who's in charge of the X-Men right now. He's a real good friend. His name is Jake. He's the one in charge of the X-Men 97 right now. Jake's a really nice guy. He's done other work, Superman, Batman, a lot of stuff for over at not DC, over at the other company. And he's a real nice guy. Let's see. When I did the X-Men, I had 2 other friends. We're all high school buddies, and we all came up together. We're all like comic book nerds back when it wasn't fashionable. Like you're a nerd, you got to stay away, that kind of stuff. But we all kind of got together and did the X-Men together. One friend, his name is Will Minio, and that's us in the bottom. I had hair back then. We're doing a lot of shows. And those are all the shows he's worked on. He was a director of Exo Squad. He's done some alien stuff like that. For me, I got a variety of stuff I've worked on as a director or as a storyboard artist. Directing X-Men, G.I. Joe, Static Shock, some Turtles, Captain Planet, Fantastic Four, some Thundarrs, Care Bears, Jonny Quest. So I had a chance to influence a lot of shows and also have fun. Like working on Turtles and stuff like that. Even Care Bears of all things, it was kind of fun to work on. My other friend, his name is Rick Holberg. Again, we're all nerds together, and Rick is really good. He's worked a lot with Lucasfilms, doing a lot of the product concept art and everything for their work, and he helped design all of the do the final animation versions of all the X-Men characters.
Where did you grow up?
Let's see, Will Minio grew up in a small town outside of Los Angeles. I can't remember. It was like a desert town. I grew up in LA, and Rick grew up in Orange County. I can't remember the exact name, but we all kind of grew up in California. And what connected us was being nerds and comic books and drawing. Back then, it was all snail mail. There was no internet, so we would draw pictures and exchange pictures and exchange letters and stuff, and we kind of all met up at Marvel Productions, actually. So we finally got together, and we were all working in that place for about 10 years. And it was a lot of fun.
Right as that studio was coming together.
Yeah, Stan Lee had incorporated Marvel Productions, I think, in 1980, and I got to work there in 1981. And so I got brought on at that time to work with him. And then Rick came on after me, and then Will came on after me, and then the three of us, we did our best to guide the studio in the right directions. I was very subversive back then in terms of like, if you watch the syndicated Spider-Mans, I was sneaking cameos here and there. You know, I did an early one where they had to go to a circus. You know, you have circus stuff. So I remember there was an issue where John Byrne drew all the characters. I think the bad guy was Arcade. It had he mind things, and they had had these versions of Storm and Wolverine, the chain thing. But I put them on as background. It's part of the background. You see it.
Yeah.
So I threw in cameos. I threw in cameos all the time. But a lot of times the people there working had no clue what we were doing because they weren't fans like the three of us.
Yeah, you had cartoons like the Super Friends, which really weren't much like the comic. They didn't care if they were like the comic.
No.
And then this was these were totally different.
Yeah, three fanboys and sneaking stuff in. That's what we're doing a lot of. I think. Let's see. This is back when we were season 1 of Marvel Spider-Man's Amazing Friends. They had a rap party, so we're just salute that kind of stuff. And this was the show that we tried to get off the ground. Was Pryde the X-Men back in the mid '80s, but it didn't go anywhere. The zeitgeist was just wrong. But we did our best to make for a good show back then. Let's see, what is this one? Oh, okay, this is playing. This is something that my friend Rick Holberg put together.
Hi, Larry. Good to see you again, buddy. I hope that Julie and Eric are there as well. It's always good to say hi to the Leewalds. And most of all, I want to say hi to the fans who have, over the last 3 decades now, made X-Men the animated series one of the most timeless and beloved shows in all of television history. It says so much about our X-Men show that when the time came to revive it, instead of beginning all over, Marvel and Disney made a hugely wise choice to do something previously never done with a show of this sort, by picking up the story right where it left off, with the same characters and the same voice actors. Personally, I can't wait to see this. From the early days of Marvel Productions and the show Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, my 2 amazing friends, Larry Houston and Will Mineo, and I began dreaming of, then conspiring, to get the X-Men into that series. By the end of season 1, we made our case, and someone, I believe it was Stan Lee, pointed out it would make for logical origin story material if Firestar was a mutant and it started out as an X-Man, or X-Woman. That uncanny team of mutants returned twice more during the 3 seasons of Amazing Friends. Some 5 or 6 years later, the studio approached Will, Larry, and I about creating an X-Men pilot episode. Pryde of the X-Men was very well received. And when our one studio chief, Margaret Lesh, became the head of Fox Kids, X-Men TAS was greenlit, quickly becoming a hit. That was truly the beginning. Now, with X-97 coming in just 1 month, and an MCU live-action version to follow in another year or 2, I, for one, am ready for all new adventures, and a return to the roots of the X-Men. See you at the X-Mansion, kids.
Yeah, Rick recorded that a while back, so that's before the X-Men '97 had actually hit the air. Rick's got multiple sclerosis, so he doesn't really travel any much, so I got him to do a video so I could take it around with me and people could at least see him and hear how he talks and stuff.
So you were there from the beginning with the X-Men animated on Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends as
Yeah.
the pilot.
Yeah, a little backstory. It's like when they're trying to get Spider-Man's Amazing Friends get premises approved, they were having a hard time for NBC kept throwing the premises out. So I talked to the story and I said, "Can you give it a shot?" He said, "Sure." So I wrote a premise of a character bad guy called Swarm, and my premise was the first one that they accepted. So I got a script in. I got the first script in for Spider-Man Amazing Friends. You guys, if you know Marvel, you know Swarm's a guy made out of bees and stuff. So I did a version of, not the accurate version, but a version that the networks enjoyed, and I got a chance to direct on the first half of it. So it was a lot of fun. I'm about 25 and I sold the script. Feels so good, I've been very blessed, like I said, working on a lot of shows, and I've been given the chance to show what I can do in different, either being in charge or just being one of the story directors on the show. It's been a lot of fun. I don't know if you guys know the G.I. Joe movie intro.
I do.
Where it's like the fights all around the Statue of Liberty and all that stuff's happening. What happened was the toy company came to Marvel Productions and said, "Hey, we need an intro to the movie." That's it. That's all they said. And so I went home and it's like, what the hell am I gonna draw? And I looked on the TV set and they had something where they were fixing up the Statue of Liberty back in the 80s. They were putting a new paint job on it and stuff. So I went, oh, okay. We're celebrating the Statue of Liberty. Cobra comes to F it up. Okay, that's it. And I just started, that's where the premise came from. And I just started drawing like crazy. I drew at least about 100 pages of actions and stuff going on. And so I drew that, not over a weekend, but I think it took about a week to get it done. Yeah.
That's such a great sequence, and then you got the rock song version of the G.I. Joe theme. And
Yeah.
It's like a whole MTV music video.
Yeah, and also someone pointed out to me it's the first time the bad guys ever had their own theme song.
Yeah.
Cobra and all that kind of stuff. And with the with the X-Men, I enjoyed what I did there, but that was a TV budget, and the G.I. Joe was a theatrical budget. And they did every little damn balloon that they put them all in there. It was like amazing to see what money can do for you. Let's see, what else can I talk about? These are the old school guys you probably already know. That's Cal Doc, who's Wolverine. That's Lenore, who's Rogue. That's Ali Sue Smith, who's our Storm. George Buza is our Beast. That's the Chris Potter. He's the original Gambit. That's the original Jubilee, Allison Court. Our mysterious bad guy for season 2, which was Chris Britton. And the original Jean Grey, Catherine Disher. And our Nightcrawler. And that's our original Morph, who was very surprised. He came in on day one to film the first episode, right? So you got all these people there, it's like 6 or 8 of them in the room. He opens the script and he figures out, I'm dead? And so, you get paid. So he got paid for one session and he was dead for the whole season. So he was like, really? Really?
I hope he didn't invite the whole family out to the premiere.
Oh my God! But he had, we brought him back to season 2 with PTSD, so he got a chance to get back into the show. But that was that was a real funny surprise for him to see that.
But I think that's how we, watching it, knew this was serious. This was going to be comic book action, comic book level stakes.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to make it out.
Yeah, and if you remember the original X-Men book, the character that died in the beginning was a character called Thundarr. And so we were going to do Thundarr until we thought about it going, okay, wait, we're going to create the first Native American superhero in one episode and kill him? Not a good idea. So we went back into the archives and we found this character called Changeling, who was created to die. And so we took Changeling and changed him into Morph. We gave him the look of Changeling, but he became Morph. But that's where the character came from, because it was a character created to die. So he said, okay, let's use that instead of Thunderbird and not get into trouble, you know. So that's what happened with that guy, but that's where the character came from.
I had friends who didn't know anything about the X-Men, and they asked me all about that after that first episode. Like, what happened? Like, this was my favorite character,
Yeah.
and then he's gone.
Yeah, a little backstory, it's like, seriously, if we only had to do one season, we never meant for Morph to come back. We didn't want to do bait and switch. It's like he's dead. But when they said we got a second season, we did a focus group with kids and asked them who their favorite character was. Guess which one they said it was? It was Morph. One episode. So they said you got a second season, but you got to figure out how to bring Morph back. So okay, so we figured, okay, we're gonna bring Sinister season 2. He does a lot of biology stuff, so we figured, okay, he'll bring him back at PTSD. So that's how you got the second season with Morph, which it worked out because he became a villain that time. And we had the nice thing about it is like working with the writers, we knew what we were gonna do for 13 episodes, and they told me. So I knew how to pace the episodes so that when we got to the 13th episode where he has a redemption moment where he defeats Sinister's mental control and becomes, himself. And so that's the way we had plotted it, and that's the way it came out. But it's like it's one of the rare times in Hollywood where a lot of shows I'd be a director and the writers would be here and we'd never talk to each other. So I have no idea what the hell they're doing. They have no idea what I'm doing. I'm trying to make a good show and I can't talk to them. Whereas in X-Men, we're all on the same page. So that worked out really well there. And that's a rarity in Hollywood, to have things like that work out well. Let me get to some of these other images here. This is the current Jubilee. Her name is Holly. This is Bishop, the current Bishop. This is Jean Grey. This is Sunspot. I can't pronounce his last name. It's written Guy. Yeah. This is the new Magneto, Matthew. This is a new Gambit. This is the new Professor X. This is the new Cyclops. And this is the new Morph. This was the original Cyclops, but he passed away. His name was Norm Spencer. And this was our original Apocalypse, was John Kalikos. Now, what I want to show you, this is like the team that, it's almost all of us, but that's the team who put together the original X-Men family together. The writers, directors, and me. And the lady next to me, her name is Margaret Lesh. She's like the secret superhero of Saturday morning because she became the CEO of Fox Kids. She's the one who called me and made me, she said, I want you to direct the X-Men. She also greenlit Batman. She greenlit Spider-Man. She greenlit almost all of Saturday morning cartoons on Fox was because of her. Because she was given the marching orders to make a difference, be more edgy, do something. So because of her, we got the X-Men on the air. Now the other person, Adrian Colburn, usually that person is perceived as like, this is the censor person. She shuts things down. She cuts that, you can't get anything good out of the shows. Her background came from live action instead of Saturday morning cartoons. So she was more open to more adult themes and pushing the envelope. And so because of her, we got a chance to like kill Morph or have Wolverine go over and gut punch Cyclops in anger on purpose. You just didn't get that.
Everybody loves that meme.
Yeah,
it's so useful.
You could not get that in Superman's. Okay? And so these two ladies here really were essential part of making everything work together. Were these two, and obviously the writers and stuff and the artists that have worked for me were also essential. The writing team was Eric and Julia Leewell on that side, and we finally met Chris Claremont about a decade ago, so that's Chris. We met him at a convention, but those two over there were really essential for making the episodes, the adaptations that you guys recognize. And like I said, when they started, they had no idea what a mutant was, they didn't know what an X-Men was, nothing. But because they could write excellent character dramas, it pulled in a huge audience. And then I made sure that it stayed feeling like a Marvel comic book, because that was my main goal for working on the show. Is that I want the X-Men to be like a living comic book, put it on the air. And some people, directors, they want to do their version. And it's like, no, I don't have that. It's like, no, there's a reason why the books are successful. You take the books and just put them in the air. I mean, there you go. It's right there. Just do that. Duh. A lot of directors don't think that way.
What did Chris think about the show? Did you talk about it?
Yeah, no, he was very impressed, and he liked, especially like what we did with the Dark Phoenix saga. It's the reason why you can't do a good Dark Phoenix saga in the movies is that we had 9.5 hours to do the arc of the Phoenix and then the corruption of the Phoenix. So you can't just do Phoenix in one movie. You gotta, it's like Infinity Wars. I mean, you gotta pace it out over several films to make it work. And so I think that's because we had so much time, we were able to do a great job with it. And we were able to put together a book on. That's the book that we did with all the backstory and stuff. A lot of things I just talked about are there. And in the book, you'll find there's a time when before we drew one drawing, we were coming up against people who wanted to do product placement here. They wanted to do this and that, and we were like doing the political dance. Oh yeah, great idea. We'll get back to you. Blah 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 blah. And when it changed from suggestion to saying you will do this, you will do that, it was like 5 of us, including me. It's not verbatim, but we told them, look, if this is what you want, with the wrong creative team, and all 5 of us quit right now if you force us to do that. We had to make them. We were willing to walk away because they wanted to turn it into Scooby-Doo, and we were going no. And so we made them back off to get the show that you guys want. But they thought, they really seriously thought we were doing it all wrong because to them, Super Friends works. Why are you guys doing this show? And there's a reason why we want to do the X-Men. That's who they are.
But you had the ratings, you had the toy sales.
Yeah.
You had the
after the fact, though.
Yeah.
When the show was playing, the toy sales would, instead of occurring, went beep like this every weekend, whoop, like this. They would make selling tons of toys. And so Marvel got smart. They bought Toy Biz so they could get part of that whoop every weekend. But season 1 was critical. So if you guys, luckily you guys kept it number 1 for the whole season. But if it had not been, it would have never been another season 2. But
How many of you watched the first episode, first day?
oh, great.
Okay, I'm on that list. Well, how many of you watched it on Disney Plus and watched it through? Yeah.
Thank you. Now, the other thing that happened with me was that I remember as a kid, it shows how old I am. It's like Spider-Man 16 or 12 or something. I'm reading the books, and there's Thor in one panel, going by, and Spider-Man saying, hey, watch where you're throwing that thing. He's flying out the way. And at the bottom, there's something, because Stanley was trying to cross-promote the sales. He says, if you want to see where Thor is going by, Tales to Astonishing number, blah, blah, whatever that is, right? But as a kid, I'm going, oh my God, they're in the same city. Whereas all the stories before then were all in Metropolis and Gotham City, blah, blah, blah. None of the stories ever connected. And Stanley actually created a connected universe. So for me, when I was doing the show, I wanted to do cameos. To show that there's a larger universe out there. And the first time I tried to do it, I put Spider-Man in the background. They said no. I went, why? They never gave me an answer. Okay. There was another so-called Slave Island where it's like they enslaved all these mutants, right? So I physically brought my collection to work, Xeroxed off all these pages, and handed it off to the background guys and to the character designers. Okay, make this Mystique, make this Blob, make this Sunfire, make this North Star, make this Aurora. But I kept the original names the writers had. Mutants 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I put it in the system, then I heard nothing. I went, aha. My mistake the first time is that I called him Spider-Man. It's like, so I put these other characters, definitely Marvel characters, but I didn't use the real name. Okay, cool. So now I knew the system. So all of the cameos you guys saw on the show, I never used any of their real names. Okay, so like all these characters, I snuck into the show, you know. And I think, yes, I finally snuck that Spider-Man into the show, and that was called a mutant arm. That's all it was called. You know, there's an armored, I don't remember what I called War Machine. I called him something. The Black Panther was African Mutant number 3. That was his official name. Okay. Doctor Strange was a mutant magician or something like that. And the Shield and the rest of them were just men in government. That's all I called them. You know, nothing special. And it got through the system. But it was, when I would put these cameos into the show, I always tried, I only put them in if it didn't interrupt the original story. That'll be like eye candy for you guys. You'd see them. But if you didn't know the X-Men, it would mean nothing to you. But I did it for you guys, so you guys it would be for you. If I was on that side of the screen, you guys would enjoy it, you know? When I went to another series I did another one called Fantastic Four, and I continued the tradition of doing cameos. So I did Hercules and I did Namorita, Captain America. I did some of the Young Justice. Is that what they call it?
New Warriors.
New Warriors. That's what it is. Dogheart. Yeah. So I put some of those into the show.
So you did the Spirit Halloween store labeling.
Yeah.
And all the characters. And
Yeah.
how it works.
So I had a chance to continue that tradition of doing cameos here and there. So it was a lot of fun, you know. And hopefully you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think we have time for some audience questions.
Yeah. If you guys have any questions about any of the X-Men episodes, like your favorite, my favorite, that kind of stuff, go ahead.
I did have a question earlier. You mentioned other images for the intro, or some of the other images that weren't used in the intro for X-Men.
There was quite a few, and I just kind of like let the movie in my head roll. I mean, I introduced the Brood, I introduced Dark Phoenix, I introduced a character called Tower, I introduced Omega Red. I mean, I had all of these characters that I had in the original titles, but like I said, I was just letting the movie run in my head and introducing all these characters. But we had to cull it down to what you guys saw and make it like, okay, here's the core characters, here's the jeopardy they are in, and here's all of them starting to fight back. So, yeah, a lot of stuff didn't get used in the show, but when I was working on 97, I showed some of those images to the new crew, and so they actually used some of my old images inside the new titles. Yeah, I know they reused, I had a version of the Dark Phoenix they used in the new titles, and so they're going to use other images that I created way back when and incorporated into the new 97.
It was fun watching those new episodes and then seeing week to week, like, oh, they changed that up. They put a new character in, they dropped somebody out.
Yeah.
And it was so cool.
Yeah, they have more money, far more money. My budget's here, their budget is here. Disney's, this is me. You know, I didn't have no budget, no time. So I had to make my show look like I had a lot more money than what I actually had. But I had been a director for like 8 years before I got the chance to do the X-Men. So I knew a lot of production tricks and how to make stuff work and how to make it look interesting, like a comic book angles and stuff, and how to minimize some of the hardest animation and make it as easy as I can so it will go through production with a minimal amount of problems.
Yeah.
You know, so that came from watching anime from overseas, watching Hayao Miyazaki, what he would do with his films, and Filmation, actually. that was they were the masters of shortcuts. So incorporating all of that together, that's how I was able to get through the X-Men show and try to do the best I could with the budget I had.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, that show built a whole generation of X-Men fans, and it was so great seeing the demand for this slowly like build up. Like people watched it on video, they watched it when it was on the Disney Channel reruns, and then Disney Plus. People watched through 2 or 3 times.
Right. Yep.
And what was it like getting that call? Like, hey, we're gonna do more.
I was totally surprised because usually when Hollywood reboots something, they never go back to the original people. They always just start all over again with brand new people. And they actually called me in to be a consultant on day 1 to work on the reboot. So I got a chance to go in and meet all the people, all the personnel, and talked about what I did, what they're doing, and we all were working together. It was amazing. It doesn't happen in Hollywood. Never, you know. And I was real grateful that they pulled me in for that. And that was a lot of fun. That was like a real good experience. And, you know, being a consultant, the one good thing about being a consultant is that I work with them, I tell them what I want to do, what should happen, then I go home. So it's up to them to do the actual work. It used to be me doing all the work. And so now I just get the chance to talk, here, do this, and I go, okay, see you tomorrow. And you know, you guys, if you guys are at work, a lot of work you guys do now is Zooming. There was no damn Zoom when I was around. No, you had to go into the office, you had to be there, you know. And our technology back then was fax machines, guys. You know, that was our technology back then, you know. We'd get faxes with artwork in it, and you had to take it and pixelate and unpixelate and draw stuff. It's crazy. So, any other questions? Oh, right here.
Do you have a favorite and or least favorite character to draw?
I guess favorite character to draw would probably be Wolverine. He's actually pretty easy to draw because he's really easy to draw. The hardest ones are the people with these gigantic hair, like Gambit's hair and Storm's hair. I mean, if you don't get it right, it looks like what is that on top of their head? So the girls with the big poofy hairs is like hardest to draw. But besides the hair, everything else, drawing the body and the action poses is really cool. But yeah, the giant hair for me, Wolverine's the easiest. Any question?
Yeah, so what was your favorite episode?
For me, I've gotten that before. My most favorite episode is actually first season, the last episode, because there was no season 2. That was going to be my last swan song. That was going to be it for working on the X-Men forever. So I poured my heart and soul into that last episode. I rewrote stuff, I redrew stuff. That was very, very far away from the original script. There's like a dialogue line from where Magneto says, "The brave are the first to die," as he sees him goes off. That wasn't in the script. I put that in there, because I wanted to button that scene. And there's the part where Magneto comes to help his friends. You think I let you die alone, because they're fighting together against the Sentinels. Part of that wasn't in the script. I wanted to set up that Magneto wasn't just a bad guy. He was actually their frenemies, that they worked together with 2 different methods. And so I rewrote that part of the script so that came across better. Because the first thing they did, it was on episode 3, it was like, oh, I'm gonna shoot the missiles and kill everybody. It's like, no, that's not Magneto. So that episode, I made sure that would happen, made sure that when Magneto saves him from Master Mold with the force field, and when they have a conversation when he's in the parachute, like that conversation was like in Act 1. So I said, no, I just took it and put it in Act 3. So it meant more at that moment than way back in another scene. And like Wolverine in fighting the robots in the tunnel, black and white, light and dark. That was like something I spontaneously came up with. I said, let me make this more interesting. This will be really cool. And a lot of that I did and rewrote and redrew what was there because what was drawn was like boring. So I wanted to kick it up a level. So I did a lot of that So that episode was actually my favorite because there was no season 2. I ended the series with Jean Grey and Scott saying they're going to get married. They're on a hilltop on a blanket. Camera pulls back. Sunset, fade out. That was it. And then that was it. At the last minute, before we delivered the film, they said, "Don't go anywhere. You got a season 2, but you got to change that ending." So I had to chop up the ending, and the dialogue just says it's something like, "You never know what the future holds." And then we grabbed one of the tech guys and we wrote something here. Say this. So he said, "Sinister knows what your future holds." Then we took his voice, we fussed it in, electronically, and we made it this like BS screen with lights flashing, and we added this computer shadow like this. No details, just a shape. And that was the new ending that you guys saw. So it was like we created cliffhanger for next year.
Yeah.
And it said Sinister. So that's what happened with that. So that's my favorite episode beside the Phoenix and Dark Phoenix sagas.
And I think the next panel is starting to filter in. I'm actually going to stay here as moderator for that one, but Larry is going to be in Artist Alley, so catch up with him.
I'm actually-
bring your questions to him.
I'm actually not in Artist Alley. I'm right by that when you come up the up escalator, I'm right there.
Right by the escalator.
Right by the escalator, yeah.
Right.
So that's where you can find me. I'll have some X-Men prints and stuff over there. I see my friend Dan Reba's back there getting ready. He's going to come next. So just so you know, we're all friends back when we were doing all these shows back in the 90s. It was fun and stuff. So if you have any other questions, I'll be there, can answer. And
Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you.